Good morning, everyone. It's January 31st, Friday, about 9:15 a.m. New York City time. And the markets look calm. Pre-market tape, S&P futures up 0.3%, Nasdaq futures up 0.6%, Dow is up 0.13%, the Russell is flat. VIX futures are down 0.9%. Treasuries are flat to slightly down. Gold is about flat. Crude is flat. Everything's flat. Nat gas is down 1.64%. Bitcoin is, you guessed it, it's flat. The FTSE is up about 0.5%. The Nikkei ended up 0.26%. The Shanghai index ended, you guessed it, flat. And the US dollar is up 0.6% versus other currencies. How's everyone doing? Good morning, Desmond. Are we going to crash, Desmond? What do the crops in India say? I saw something else, another post. I think somebody linked it recently. Is about Mars. Something about Mars predicting the downfall of the U.S. economy. I look forward to it. I think it's something that it talks about Mars leading to the Dow Jones falling. And I'm like, man, people barely even know, they don't talk about the Dow anymore. Maybe switch it to the NASDAQ. All right, let's look at a few stocks. I thought I'd skip the news for now, or my news sources rather. We'll look at Apple. So Apple's up, a couple percent pre-market. Tim Cook says first quarter was best quarter ever. Well, I hope so. Let's see. I think sales in China went down something like 10, 11%. Did they say anything about Apple Intelligence? Which is interesting. I think they were smart to jump on the AI bandwagon, but the rollout doesn't look too hot. I think people are just asking how to turn off Apple Intelligence on their phones. That's not a good sign. I think I saw Microsoft creeping up in the pre-market. Oh, it was a bit higher. Yeah, it looked like it touched 420. Now it's back down 418. Yeah, Microsoft's still at a good price. I'm going quite bullish on Microsoft. Midterm, long term. It's a good price. What else we got? What's in the news? Semis have recovered quite a bit. Nvidia's still lagging though. I mean, it had an 8% move the other day. Was that Tuesday? And it's kind of settled down since then. It's starting to move up in the pre-market. I think Nvidia would be just fine. It's Nvidia. But also, I suppose people are wondering if China's just getting GPUs from Nvidia through intermediaries through other countries. There's a theory that that super microcomputer just exists to handle their GPUs for them and skirt by tariffs. I thought that was kind of funny. SMCI is just Nvidia's little, I don't know, point man, the smuggler. Okay. But yeah, a lot of semis are looking better. ASML reported markets like that. I think ASML should be back up to 850, 900, no problem. Over the I guess this year, sans a market correction, but I mean semis just had a little correction. But yeah, I think that was pretty good buying opportunity for ASML. For a lot of semis, really. But ASML, I think the markets will remember eventually the powerhouse that it is. It's a monopoly. They're not going anywhere. How about Micron? Micron dropped. It was just here a month ago, actually. Yeah, Micron hasn't had a good time. Bit too cyclical. Intel reported nothing alarming, I guess. Pretty flat. I sold some put spreads yesterday because I figured the markets are tired of selling Intel. How much worse could it get? They still got a long timeline for a recovery. How's TSM? TSM's doing fine. Yeah, semis look all right. There were some decent buying opportunities for the more cyclical stocks, such as Micron. But Micron, it's got other issues. What about the power generation stocks? Energy stocks? VST. I really like VST. Oh, man, it's moving. Yeah, about call spreads on that dip. Those are doing quite well. Was a good buying opportunity. It's already pulling way back up. I mean, it's already back to the level it was at. What is this, a week ago? 2 weeks ago? It's like nothing happened. CG, Constellation Energy, the nuclear stocks, the good ones. Yeah. CG's right back up. What about Talon? It's TLN. Yeah, same thing. Vertiv is the data center infrastructure company. Trades a lot like NVIDIA. VST, which is Vistra Corp, the nuclear power utilities company. Yeah, VRT looks good here. Microsoft they announced earnings. They said they're having trouble keeping up, building more data centers to meet operational demand. That sounds like a supply crunch. Vertiv is the company that provides data center infrastructure. So when there's a supply crunch, price typically goes up. So I'm wondering if VRT is going to announce that in earnings. So I'm pretty bullish in VRT for now. It was a good little buying opportunity there. And it hasn't recovered, hasn't rebounded the way the other stocks have. I mean, it's a decent rebound. It went from 100, just below 100. Now it's trading at 117. So, but it was at 156. So, just a week ago. Yeah, I think these stocks are good to sell cash secure puts. Maybe buy call spreads. All right, let's look at the news. Comcast. They just reported earnings. They fell 11% after reporting a fourth quarter loss of 139,000 residential broadband customers, which exceeded forecasts. To offset slowing broadband growth amid rising competition, the company will shift focus to bundling mobile services, leveraging its 7.8 million mobile lines. Man, Comcast was looking all right before. This might be, what's their dividend? About 4%. Might be worth taking a look at them. Yeah, this is about a 2-year low. Or it is a 2-year low, yeah. Very interesting. Comcast, all right. UPS tanked on earnings. I think they were down something like 15%. They announced that they were going to reduce Amazon shipping volume by 50% by mid-2026. It's a pretty big part of the revenue stream, and it was about 12% of fiscal year 2024. They also gave guidance for 2025 revenue of $89 billion, $6 billion lower than Wall Street estimates of $95 billion. Yeah, UPS got hammered. They're trading at a very low valuation relative to the historical range, but yeah, it's a pretty big deal. I'm waiting to see what analysts are going to update their estimates to before making some kind of call on them. Good to trade vol. IVR was still pretty high. I think it was still around 50 yesterday morning. Paramount. Paramount is in settlement talks with President Trump over a $10 billion lawsuit related to alleged deceptive editing of a 60 Minutes interview. The move could ease regulatory approval of Paramount's planned merger with Skydance, given potential FCC scrutiny under Trump. So another company has to kiss Trump's ass to do business. Fantastic. See if there's anything else worth reading in the news. Costco's raising hourly wages for most U.S. store workers to over $30 within 3 years, starting with $30.20 in the first year. The move comes as Costco faces potential strike by union members. That'd be great if Costco finally dropped to the point where it's a buy. DOJ filed a lawsuit to block Hewlett-Packard Enterprises deal $14 billion buyout of Juniper Networks, citing risks of reduced competition and higher prices in the U.S. networking market. Jointly, they hold 20% of the market, competing primarily with Cisco. Yeah, Cisco's already a monopoly. Can't damage their business. MicroStrategy raised $563 million through a preferred stock offering at $80 per share, below its $100 liquidation preference, as the company continues its strategy of using capital to acquire more Bitcoin. Or put another way, to scam investors, because that's what it is. Shout out to the new subreddit, Sailor Moonju. FDA greenlights painkiller from Vertex Pharmaceuticals, VRTX. Gained FDA approval for Jernavix, a non-opioid painkiller aimed at treating moderate to severe acute pain without addiction risk. The company estimates potential annual sales exceeding $1 billion. Vertex was up. Let's see. They're up 3.2%. Oh, they were flying earlier. Man, Vertex dropped to 380. Wow, that would have been a decent buy-in. Not just in hindsight. Vertex has been on my watch list for a long time. It's a pretty solid company. And they have good exposure to emerging trends in biotech. I believe they have a partnership with CRISPR. So genetic editing, not directly exposed, but they make money off that trend. So, yeah, that's a great company. Okay, let's look at the tape. S&P's up 0.4%. Nasdaq's up 0.9%. Dow's up 0.16%. Russell is flat. VIX futures down 1.2%. Not bad. Who was scared about the sell-off? I see articles saying that DeepSeek burst the AI bubble, which is not even. I mean, it's false in 2 counts. A bubble usually implies that there's a very minimal amount of money being made, and it's mostly promises. I don't think NVIDIA stock is a bubble. They're making a ton of cash flow. Unless it's just accounting fraud across the board, which would be highly improbable. So, not quite a bubble. I think there are bubbles in the markets, but I don't think semiconductor chips and power generation, I don't think that's a bubble. They're making so much money right now. And as it relates to bursting that bubble, 18%, that was a big drop for NVIDIA, but if it were a bubble, for a bubble to burst, yeah, you got to see 18% is tame. You got to look towards the .com bubble when tech stocks dropped 90%. That's a bubble bursting. This drop on Monday, yeah, that was just valuations coming down. A little correction, a nice correction. Made for a great trade on NVIDIA, that's for sure. Aaron from YouTube, how you doing? All right, let's look at some trades. DJT announced some BS. What they did, they're getting into alternative finance, personal finance, TruthFi. Yeah, well, it did squeeze to over 35. It's come back down. Not much to see there. And they announced this right when Twitter announced something similar, I believe. I think it was the same day. A little bit of family fighting, it looks like. Oh, Walgreens, look at that. Down 14.5%. So they suspended their dividend. Okay, that's not surprising. I thought they were in talks to be bought out. Or to go private. What happened to that? Hmm. Okay, I saw stocks moving up in the pre-market, and now they're coming back down. Microsoft's come back down a bit. VST was up, about a $5 move back down. TXN, I saw some put spreads. Those actually went in the money. They're about to expire. Okay, yeah, 185 short side, so I'm good on those for now. And it was dividend. I saw some call spreads on Tesla through earnings. I'm surprised Tesla didn't drop more. But I don't really think Tesla's stock price movement is too logical. Not the only stock like that. SMMNY, Siemens Healthcare, or their healthcare subsidiary, rather. There's some news that came out this past week. They're making progress with treating cancer with radiotherapy. Apparently it's effective, but it's still in early trials. So I picked up a few shares just to put them on my radar. Need to look into that a bit more. They're not the only ones testing radiotherapy as a treatment for cancer, but the news seemed pretty clear that they actually have a treatment that appears to be somewhat effective. So I think it's worth putting on your radar. Some further investigation required. Oklo, how's Oklo doing? I've been selling strangles on them. And look at that stock price go. Believe it or not, strangles with this movement, I am making money. Because that's how crazy the options are priced. Nintendo has been on fire. When did they report earnings? Is that Monday? Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. Look at this price move. It's just a staircase up. Looks highly tradable. But you don't have options, so you're limited. All right. How's Microsoft now? Microsoft's up 0.7%. Okay. I want to see it go up closer to 425. I'll take 420. That'd be nice. I saw some put spreads expiring March. Strikes 400, 390. IVR was still pretty high after earnings. I think it was, I don't know, something like 40. JP Morgan. Man, look at that thing. JP Morgan's doing so well. IBM soared something like 13.5%, 14% from earnings. Had some call spreads, made great money on those. I still like IBM over the long term, but that is a crazy move. So I cashed out. I'd like to see the stock price. Maybe it fills the gap. Fills the gap, that'd be great. back down to, let's see, 230. That'd be good to see. IVR is 43. Still pretty high. Oh, that's right. I sold some strangles yesterday. I think IVR was still around 50. All right. LVS had a big move up. What was that? Earnings, right? They were up something like 11%, I think. They had some calls on it, and yeah, those did quite well. I knew they had earnings when I bought the calls, but I forgot as of yesterday, and then yeah. Woke up, old King D reminded me. Let's see. Pepsi's up 4.5%. Nice. Yeah, Pepsi got a little oversold. And they reported earnings. Earnings were great. Nice. Okay. Yeah, very nice. I got some calls on them. Yeah, this is up 100%. Okay. Might take a look at those. Anything you guys are looking at, guys and gals? It seems a bit quiet in the markets today. Like there's no chaos going on. Oh, Trump announced he's imposing 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Freaked out the Forex markets. Caused a crazy swing in the SPY. Yeah, nobody was expecting that, but, go figure. It's Trump. Let's see. Trudeau says if Trump chooses to implement any tariffs against Canada, they're ready with a response. If they have to act, it wouldn't relent until tariffs are removed. Says everything is on the table. So I know they're big in the energy markets. Oil, gas. Syrup. Mexico, on the other hand, let's see. I mean, I think we depend more on Mexico than Canada, like by a wide margin. Mexico's economy minister Ebrard says 25% tariffs would make fruit, vegetables, meat, beer, cars, and trucks, household appliances, and medical equipment more expensive than the U.S. I mean, Mexico is our like personal China. Yeah. Yeah, that's a formula for inflation. Intel's now red, down to 19.7. IVR is at 47. It's basically flat. My put spreads are good. This is for March. My calls are dead. Big sad. It's moving now. It's a little too quiet. Where's Andy? Andy always has something to say or a burp to let out. What do I say about Citigroup? Why is the valuation so far from the price? Why is valuation so far from the price? What does that mean? The valuation is based on price. I'll give you a moment. Last I checked, Citigroup was probably valued reasonably Took a long time for it to revert to a good value, as if Wall Street still hadn't forgiven it. They were one of the biggest evildoers in the Great Recession, by the way. The stock price over the long term reflects that. Yeah, look at this. High of 400, no, sorry, 500, about 560. And then it hit a low of $9.70. And then it stayed pretty low for a while. I guess there was a solid recovery, but for a long time, the company was in a decent position. It just didn't move too much. Yeah, now it's trading at about 82. Citigroup was my biggest bank play at least a few years ago. I don't know, 3-4 years ago, maybe? Let me see. When was it? Yeah, I want to say it was 2020. And it didn't move too well. And maybe it was 2022. I can't remember. It's one of these years it just wasn't moving well. It wasn't 2023. But yeah, one of these years just wasn't doing well. Couldn't catch a break. And then 2023 happened. And it started doing well. They finally got their act together. But honestly, I'm not really sure what really changed with the company. I feel like they're just going up with financials. Because Citigroup was always a company that traded below book value, which is not atypical for banks. The idea is that markets will price banks based on the amount of risk that they see within those banks. So they can still do well, they can still perform well, but say a stock like Citigroup, for it to trade above book value, it just hasn't happened. Let's see. Like right now, it's trading at 0.81 book value, and that's the highest it's traded at since 2021, middle of 2021. Yeah, 4 years. And looking at the chart here, I'll bring this up. So this is the price to book value over the past 5 years. Or actually, no, sorry. This is I guess since 2006. Pretty sure they've been public longer than that. No matter. Yeah, so, I mean, before the Great Recession, book value of above two times. And then the low was about 0.07, looks like, when everybody was blaming them for crashing the U.S. economy and the global economy. Interestingly, it took them like a year and a half to go right back up to close to book value. But yeah, Citigroup, they've traded cyclically for this is like 15 years now. So whenever it starts heading back towards book, trading at book value, it's typically a good time to sell. So it's still got a bit to go, really. I would say 0.9 times book value is kind of like, just looking at his trading history, that's sort of where the red flag is. Like if you were in it, it'd be time to take profits and then wait for it to drop, because it does drop. you did a simple valuation on your own, got around 620. Yeah, double check that. Not sure what you're basing that off of, but yeah, if you're doing a valuation for bank, it should be based on price to earnings and book value, and you have to consider risk, return on equity. And then for Citigroup, you're probably still going to have to ding them because the markets see them as high risk, which means they'll be trading below book value. So I think in general, when Citigroup is trading, we'll say below zero point 0.6, it's a pretty good value, assuming they're not, crashing the economy. Whenever they're trading above 0.8, or 0.8 or higher, I think that's when it's probably time to sell. In between that range makes sense. In between 0.6 and 0.8 makes sense. 0.7, I think, tends to be like they're doing fine. Not knocking it out of the park, but they're not concerning anyone with their results, their earnings. Yeah, and then so the key there is what's the risk that they assume, and that can be subjective. You might not have a specific metric there. You do have metrics to look at, like how much of their balance sheet would be loans, or how much do they make off of loans versus spreads. So, yeah, you got to understand a little bit about the business. But in general, if you look at any bank, like Citigroup's trading at 0.81 price to book. If we look at JP Morgan, I bet it's above 2. Or around 2, maybe. Let's see. Okay, it's 2.31. Yeah, that makes sense. So if you look at JP Morgan, 2.31, a lot of people would say this is way too high for a massive bank. And a lot of people would be right, frankly, but it's JP Morgan. So 2.31 times price to book value versus Citigroup's 0.81. That's a pretty good indicator of how the markets view JP Morgan. But it also has to do with profitability and, say, like return on equity. So let's see. Let's bring up forward price to earnings, and then we'll look at return on equity separately. Let's just do 5-year. Probably do 3-year, get rid of COVID. Okay. So, yeah, it's trading basically all-time highs, which makes sense. I remember when we had that regional banking crisis. What was that? It was 23, right? And I'm pretty sure it's 2023, like April, May, something like that. Forward P was below 10. Price to book went down to 1.4. Back in 2022, which was an interesting year for financials because I don't think they did too well, at least relative to the markets. You have pretty good buying opportunities. So JP Morgan, to keep it simple, you could just look at price to book and say whenever it's, I don't know, what do we got here? Let me get rid of price to earnings. I guess below 1.5, it's reasonable. Below 1.3 is a good deal, I would say, on JP Morgan. Oh, let me look at 5-year because banks trade differently than they used to. Like 10 years ago, banks were valued like this. So a lot of maybe like older investors, maybe people, I don't know, on Reddit, whatever. I don't even know if people on Reddit know how to value banks. I'm sure there are some, but I think for the most part, people have no idea how to value banks. But you will find people that say this is way too high. Banks should never trade at these valuations. And the reason they're saying that is because you look at the history. like for example, pre-financial crisis, 1.5 times price to book value for JP Morgan was all-time high. That was really high. And you had investors back then, you probably had Buffett, a lot of people saying banks are priced way too richly. Now 1.5 is a pretty decent price for JP Morgan. They were always a big bank. Now they're the bank. But yeah, valuations, you have to look at valuations differently than you did before, particularly for banks. Because they basically get their ways now. Whatever they want from the Fed, from the government. Yeah. Free reign for them. They are the equivalent of the Mag 7 within the banking industry. So, for the most part, they tend to move together. So that's why, like you ask me, at any point in time, you know, when the regional banking crisis happened, people were like starving, looking for the best bank play. I remember on Reddit, people were looking at just these companies that were probably going to fail or had a high chance of failing and trying to buy them at really low book values. I was looking at some too. I made a few plays, and then I made some good money on some plays. And I think, what was it, First Republic, they failed. Or they got snatched up for, you know, pennies on the dollar by JP Morgan. I think a few other companies. But at the end of the day, I just looked at it and I said, you know what? The whole finance industry dropped. It's really hard. You really have to study the balance sheets and understand like the bank's long-term debt, how it's marked to market. That takes time. And you could still be wrong. And a bank could be trading for pennies on the dollar. You think it's a great deal. You know, you think they're going to survive. And it turns out, you know, no, they're not, or they're getting bought out. They're going to be acquired in parts, you know, in pieces or whatever. And the value just isn't, you're not going to get the value you expect. So hopefully, I know there are a lot of people fishing for really cheap banks. And I think a lot of people are just guessing, to be honest. Or they saw a few metrics somebody posted on Reddit or some tweet or whatever. And they said, this bank is good. Look at these. And I looked at so much data. I looked at white papers. And it was just hours of research, like weeks of research. And I was just like, this is a pain. And I don't know if it's going to work out. So end of the day, the whole finance sector was down. All the banks sold off. Said, what's the best play? It's JP Morgan. Who's going to be the main bank to come in and save the day when these banks are failing? They're going to be sold, you know, for pennies on the dollar. JP Morgan. Who does the Fed owe, you know, from bailing everybody out from the Great Recession? JP Morgan. So JP was just in the best position, period. So most of the time when people ask, you know, what's the best play in financials, what bank should you buy? There's big, you know, there's a correction in financials, whatever the case is, I'm just going to say JP Morgan. If Citigroup goes below 0.5 price to book value, I'll say, okay, yeah, let's look at Citigroup. Goldman Sachs is a good stock to trade. But they tend to have issues at certain points in time. Them, it's like, how long can they get away with shifty business practices before, you know, the SEC finds out? They make a ton of money on the way up, and then somebody finds out, they report them, they get dinged, they have to pay a big fine, they have to adjust their business practices, stock comes back down, and then they do it again. So, and apparently Wells Fargo does that too, except not as well as Goldman. Let's see. Oh, hey, what's up, Hardy? How does Goldman Sachs factor into all this? Main issue was giving too good a deal to Apple for Apple Card. I'm curious what they got from that. Like, did they get? I honestly don't know. I didn't look into the deal, but did they get a lot of good data? That must have done something for Goldman in order for them to take such a shitty deal. Not just because it's Apple. You know what I mean?
Well, I believe most of it was interchange fee, and the presumption that Apple card holders are more affluent and to whom can be cross-sold other financial products.
Yeah.
Oh, and also the savings account during a period of super high, relatively speaking, interest rates.
Very true. Let's go with sex at now. Jeez, 650. Oh, that's the other stock I was gonna say. BlackRock. The BlackRock is trying to take over the world. So, actually, let's see what they trade at. Yeah, these banks they used to trade more cyclically, and maybe it's just the crazy bull market that we're in. Maybe that's the reason why they haven't in a while. But used to be you just waited for these banks to screw up. The share price tanks. You buy in, you give it time. Eventually, the stock price will come back up. Wells Fargo is a good example. Again, Goldman Sachs. But we don't have that type of environment anymore. And the banks have gotten really good at taking advantage of customers in certain ways. So I feel like it takes longer than it used to uncover those shiesty things that they're doing. Because whenever that happens, there's a lot of scrutiny, legal scrutiny, fines. They have to settle with the SEC, the courts, whatever. And then they have to adjust. And the government keeps an eye on them for
Well, that's
a couple
why they're
years.
all for self-regulation.
Yeah.
That's what FINRA's for. Or, well, on paper anyway.
Well, it's supposed to be, yeah.
Ever since I signed up to be an arbitrator and got approved as an arbitrator for FINRA, no one's ever really called me to arbitrate stuff.
There's no need. Yeah. It's all back alley transactions these days in arbitration.
I'm also in New York, which likely has a lot of them.
Yeah.
So,
It,
you being out there in Pittsburgh, if you signed up as an arbitrator, you probably
true.
have a better chance of getting called to service.
Oh, I can arbitrate. Yeah, BlackRock. Yeah, without the threat of, real regulation on the banks. Um, yeah, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. They're going to continue to be valued richly compared to, 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. And the banks love it. We still don't have a reserve requirement that still never came back from the height of COVID. Does anybody? I wonder who even. I know some of you definitely know. Hardy, I know you know what I'm talking about. But newer traders, I wonder if they even know what the reserve requirement is. Like that's how long it's been. Yeah, that still hasn't come back. Reserve requirement was a certain amount of capital that the banks had to keep on the balance sheets, cash, short term cash, or short term investments or cash, and it was meant as sort of it was you know collateral for the risk that they were taking, and I believe it was 10%. Um, well, through COVID, they got rid of it to allow banks to
I don't
invest
remember
even
if it
more.
was COVID. Well, it was definitely used during the recession as a way to increase liquidity, and they just strengthened the FDIC so that it acted as better insurance for instead of having that plus the reserve requirement.
Yeah.
Didn't help Lehman, but it helped some of Bear Stearns. Part that got sold off.
But yeah, it was a nice little boost in liquidity when they got rid of it, and they said that they would bring it back, and they never did. And then I find it funny that the banks still complain that regulation is too tight for them. Like, you serious? Like, this is the most capitalist market has ever existed for banks. Okay, let's see. Hmm. Waiting for JP to be oversold on the minute chart. And uncover these call spreads and just go long. Microsoft's up 1.2%. Nope, there's 420. All right. Hmm. Okay. What else we got? What's moving today? I mean, there are some things moving. How's Walgreens doing? Are they live? They breathing? Down 17%. VST's cooling off. Haha. Get it? Because that's their business. Cooling data center. Never mind. How's VRT? Okay. Looks like yesterday when I chose VRT over VST, I chose correctly so far. We'll see if that continues. Ups is up 1%. Oh, and I almost forgot. I have a guest today. Let me, I'll show you guys. All right. Uh, there's a picture of today's guest in my home. And she's yawning.
Yes. So, who persuaded you to take in this ruffian?
Oh, I'm just a dog sitter. It's my neighbor, and I just take care of her here and there. Um, yeah, it's raining outside, so I put a towel on the couch. Her little paws got wet. She's so low to the ground that her belly gets wet too, so I have to dry her. Oh yes, I'm a serial dog sitter, but also I had a dog in Dallas.
You had dog in Dallas? Was
I had
it
a dog,
seasoned?
yeah, Alistair, little sheepadoodle, my boy. But he's with friends. He's got a new family. It's a tough
Oh, not a
decision.
Rainbow Bridge kind of situation.
Yeah.
Sounds
Or are
like
they
quite the
talking
story there.
quantum on Tasty Trade?
120.
Hmm. All right. Let's see. I don't know if there's anything I want to trade right now. I do have to close some positions. Oh, Tesla's up 4%. So Tesla unscathed by the deep sink of AI stocks. They have earnings, sales missed, and then they say they're not a car manufacturer, they're an AI company, and they're up.
Didn't Kodak try the same thing?
Yeah,
They called themselves a cryptocurrency company.
yeah. I mean, this is the biggest grifting company in the world in history, but I wonder if you go back in time and tell people that were going to buy a Tesla, like, hey, by the way, depreciation is going to be super high and the battery is not as good as you might think. If they would still say, yeah, yeah, I love Tesla.
But it's also a solar company.
True. And a flamethrower company. Yeah, I see Julie on Taste Trade. Man, she's rocking that hair. I thought she had straight hair. I think she got a perm. Ah, thanks for posting earnings for next week because we can never get enough. Palantir. It's Monday after the close. AMD is Tuesday after the close. Google. Amgen. Looking forward to Amgen. Spotify. Stock price way too high. Good lord. Disney is Wednesday morning. How's Disney been doing? Let's see. Eh, chugging along. Pissing off the alt right. Just because they need something to be angry about. Novo Nordisk is Wednesday morning. Toyota as well. Oh, that's TMC. That's not Toyota. Um, yeah, Toyota's been doing all right over the past few months. Johnson Controls, they're doing all right. Qualcomm, I wonder what Qualcomm has planned for the future because I think they still have what, like a quarter of the business is to China, quarter of the sales. Eli Lilly is Thursday morning. Um, they've been doing all right. Novo Nordisk has been coming out with some good news, but the stock price seems just suppressed. I'm pretty bullish Novo Nordisk. Bristol Myers, good value play, or was. Made good money on that. The calls were insanely cheap. Amazon is Thursday after the close. So was a firm. Hmm. Very interesting. Yeah, AMD. Man, AMD. AMD needs some love. They needed raised guidance, man. They Lisa Sue, she needs to don the leather jacket. Maybe comb the hair just like Jensen Huang, and then people will believe. How's P Pfizer? Pfizer. Oh, they have earnings? Yeah, next week. Pfizer, man. I'm worried about them because it's kind of evidence like they're making money. I wouldn't call them a cash cow, but they do have a lot of debt. They pitched in to like save the world through COVID, and then they were just left with still like a ton of debt. The markets just dumped them afterwards. They have a good dividend, but they can't repurchase stock and pay down debt and pay the dividend at the same time. And there are other stocks that can. And management has been like iffy with Pfizer. I don't know how much of the performance is due to just the markets, the economy, and how much is due to management. So I would hate. I know people have been bullish Pfizer forever, and I've had words on them for a long time. Pretty much same opinion as I do now. Um, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to take for the markets to really reward them. What they're going to announce, what they're going to say, guidance. They can only increase guidance so much. I mean, they need a good drug pipeline. They need some breakthrough results on what they're working on already, like cancer, oncology, stuff like that. Um, but these markets, I could easily see them issuing disappointing guidance or something that disappoints the markets, and then they sell off 10%. I think their dividend's safe. I think it's fine. I just think they're not going to move as fast as the markets want them to, which is synonymous with the stock price not really doing too well. Flat, maybe gradually up. It's not a bad value stock. It's good over the very long term. Um, but it's just not a sexy stock.
It's funny you say that everything must cease. There is no interest for health companies to cure. They want to treat because treating is recurring revenue.
I mean, I think he's just making a joke. Like, what's it gonna take for Pfizer to for the markets to love Pfizer again? I still like Merck better. When's Merck report? Is it next week? Tuesday in the morning? I'm very curious. That'd be interesting to see how Merck does versus Pfizer. In similar markets. Oh, wait, I'm still looking at Pfizer. Wait, no, Merck is also. Merck is Tuesday morning. Okay, yeah, they're both Tuesday morning. Interesting. Merck doesn't pay the dividend that Pfizer pays. Stock price is traded similarly, but they are in a better financial position. They're pretty interesting pipeline as well. Yeah, it'd be hilarious if Pfizer came out with a cure for cancer and the stock tanked. I'm like, well, that's it. Like, no more future cash flow. The fact that these health and public service companies are publicly traded creates a conflict of interest for the shareholders and community members. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, for what are public goods and services, necessities. Yeah. But that's how capitalism works. I think insurance is the worst. But don't get me started on that. All right, see you, Hardy. he just bounced. Yeah. I think, don't get me started. I think insurance by far the worst. You guys know what happens when you bring up insurance. Or, to be fair, I'm the one that mentioned it. Yeah, I don't quite understand how something can be on one end, Medicaid, Medicare, it's completely, or for the most part, it's funded by the government because it's a necessity. It's a public good, public service. But then it's also an institution that's publicly traded. Because you're not quite old enough, or you're not poor enough, or you're not disabled enough. Like, oh man. Okay, let's. I'm not gonna. We're not gonna do this. Don't. All right. How's Intel? Speaking of shit. How are my put spreads on that? I'm not making as much as I'd like to. What's IVR? It's 42. I guess I'll give it a few days. Man, that's not much of an IV crush for me. I'm only making like 15%. That is whack. Pepsi, they doing all right? That's Brookfield Renewables, not a Pepsi. Well, how is Pepsi actually? Yeah, they're fine. They got earnings coming up. Yeah, Brookfield Renewable. Looks like good earnings. 5% distribution increase. Nice. Distribution is a synonym for dividends. Okay, nice. I like Brookfield. They get about half of their revenue from hydroelectric power, or the sale and provision of hydroelectric power, rather. Speaking of renewable energy, I am going to wrap up the report, the last part of the renewable energy series. Frankly, I should have called it, I don't know, green energy. I probably should have called it green energy because I didn't even realize till yesterday. I called it renewable energy, but it's mostly about nuclear power, which is not renewable. Or clean energy, one of those. But yeah, I'll be wrapping up that report within the next few hours or so. And I will be distributing it to everyone by the end of the day. I might... I guess you guys can tell me. I know that there's a number of subscribers in the Discord channel right now. Is the Discord format fine for you? Like just reading it in the Discord channels? Or would you like a PDF? It won't take me long to make a PDF. I mean, I already type out the report in a document. It's just the formatting. You like Discord? Yeah, by the way, this report is longer than the natural gas report. It got a bit beefy. You like X? Well, I guess I should emphasize this is for the paid subscribers, my wealthy donors. I think, you can charge for stuff on X, right? They probably take a bigger cut, I assume. Yeah, I was thinking about using Substack because I think the formatting's a bit better. But I was trying to avoid using a whole bunch of different platforms. But I guess, it's up to you, right? Like whichever platform you prefer. But mostly about format. And I just figured I stuck to Discord because I thought it was easier. Everybody's already here. You don't have to sign up for anything else. But yeah, I'm aware that not everybody loves the format. You like PDF? I mean, I could still do it. It wouldn't it wouldn't take much. It wouldn't take me any time. Not really. Maybe there'd be like premium feature. You get the PDFs. Yeah. We'll see. I'll probably go ahead and do it. Nothing fancy, mind you. It's not going to be all, super colorful or whatever. It'll just be, formatted well. I'm not trying to persuade everyone with pretty pictures and colors. I'm trying to give you a fairly unbiased, data-driven analysis of industries and companies. So, in this report, I don't even have any infographics. There's no pictures in this report. And I thought about it. I was like, maybe we should add some, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I can scrounge something up for the sake of your eyes. But yeah. So I'll be pushing that out in a couple hours or so, by market close. I'll try to get that out by like 2 or 3. Just in case you like what you see, or it talks about stocks you've already been looking at and you want to trade before the weekend, whatever. Other than that, I'm probably going to call it a day. I don't really see anything interesting enough to trade right now. Let me check JP Morgan again. JP Morgan had a nice little bounce. I was going to close my short calls. I did not. Yeah, no problem. Let's see. What's okay, yeah. I guess I'll just leave my call spreads open there. All right. If you guys got nothing else, I got nothing. Oh, Soul, what did you miss? Nah, not really. Nothing interesting. Market seemed tame. And if you just got here, I just mentioned that I'm going to push out the third part of the renewable energy report in the next couple hours. And there'll probably be a PDF as well. So, yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm going to call it a day. Book club. Importantly, book club meeting at 8 p.m. New York City time. They're going over the book Aversion by Alistair Reynolds, which was my selection that won the vote for this month. And then next month, we're reading In the Heart of the Sea by Nathaniel Philbrick, which I already started. It's pretty good. I actually really like that. Really like that book. But so yeah, if you're interested in book club, go to the Superbooks channel and let me know. Just tag me or whatever, or you can tag book club. Yeah. It's very democratic. But oh yeah. All right. That's all I got. I'll have some announcements Monday morning related to the content, stuff like that. Performance updates for the trades. This month was crazy for trades, but I think we got out of it fairly well. Yeah, and then I'll mention the next report that I'm gonna do for the paid content. Next big report. Might give it a month break because these reports are holy hell. They're a bit much, but yeah, I might give myself a month or two of breathing room. And you get other reports, you get updates on spreadsheets, stuff like that I've already distributed, but cash burn, stuff like that. So yeah. All right, lads and lasses, until next time, I will see you Monday morning, and have a great weekend. Ta-ta and farewell.